to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something, completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.
This is Colin McGuigan for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Delighted to be joined today by Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie's actually coming to London next weekend to the Indigo at the O2 for the Bare Knuckle BYB show, where he's going to be a commentator. And we are going to touch on that in due course. But first of all, Paulie, I'd like to get your thoughts on your instant reaction to the Benn Eubank situation.
What is it now? I know it was on, it was off, it was on, it was off. I don't know what it's at now.
It's been postponed now. The whole show's off. So is that the right thing to do in your opinion?
So was that the last statement that was released where they said, what they say, the promoters take this seriously or something like that? What they say? Well, okay.
Yeah.
What was the quote they used?
They said the promoter takes it seriously and that they'll have to have a discussion basically with the British Boxing Board of Control, and that the fight is off and postponed now at this present moment. So does that mean that in the future it might happen again?
Yeah, I think it probably happens again. I'd assume that, in a normal world there'd be some kind of suspension, and then on the get back they'll try to make the fight later on. I don't know, boxing is the Wild West, so you can't really predict what exactly they're going to do. But yeah, you'd expect them to try. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they'd try it again, if they'd just postpone it until later. I find the statement interesting. The promoters take it so seriously that they had to cancel it. That's I think that's the right thing to do. But they took it so seriously, in fact, that they spent 24 hours after the first 24 hours after the guy failed, trying to figure out a way to put the show on, as opposed to canceling it right away. That's how seriously they took it. But then once they realized that there was no way they could put it on, it would just be a slap in the face. Then they just finally bowed their heads and gave in and said, okay, we'll have to cancel it. There was just too much backlash and pressure, I guess. But if there was any way that they could have possibly made this show, they would have disrespected everything that stands for any sort of sanctity. I mean, not that boxing ever cares about that kind of stuff, but it would have been really it would have been kind of awful. Boxing's awful as it is, this business. But I mean, when you actually, the rare times you actually do catch somebody, the rare times that somebody actually does get caught, they should at least try to pretend they care. At least I know they don't care when they don't catch people. That's why the testing is so horrible and so weak. But I feel like the testing is just there because it would just look bad if there was no testing. But you just get the feeling that all these testing agencies and all these promoters, these commissions, they only put out this testing because it's just sort of a washing their hands kind of thing, that make it look like give it the appearance that they're trying to keep the sport clean. But in reality, they hope to God every time that somebody says that they don't fail, because they know everybody's on something. But at least when somebody does fail, they should at least have the decency to just do the right thing and just outright cancel it. But this goes to show you just how really far we've sunk. They spent 24 hours trying to figure out a way to put the fight on, when the right thing to do would have just been to cancel it. And now they're going to have to cancel it anyway and postpone it till later, which they probably will do the fight later. But they just have an egg on their face even worse now for trying to keep the fight on to begin with.
I spoke to Carl Frampton yesterday, and like yourself, he was someone that risked his life every time he got into the ring. Whenever you put it into the terms of risking your life every time you step into the ring, for you, does it not sit right with you that this has happened? And does it not sit right with you that they did spend 24 hours trying to put this fight on?
Yeah, and none of it sits right with me, of course. It's just, but it's boxing, bro. What are you gonna do? You know what I mean? I used to talk about the stuff when it was first starting to become obvious, and nobody did anything about it. So it's not like, you've got people that are more interested in the money than anything else, and I guess that's his life. So that takes precedence over everything. So it's the kind of situation you have. What are you gonna do?
With having someone like Conor Benn at this stage of his career in a massive fight like this, should he have been, if he does say this was an accident, which it looks as if it is going to be said that it's an accident, were you someone that had to look at everything you do? Carl Frampton said to me yesterday there was an ointment for psoriasis, and he had to make sure of everything that was in that ointment, and he wouldn't even use it. Were you like that throughout your career?
Yeah, I was, but I mean, certain things you got to be careful of, sure. I remember realizing that there was, I was losing my hair at the end of my career, so I was using some hair products, and they told me that some hair products, may cause positive drug tests. So I didn't use those hair products. It's very simple. And so, I don't think it was that big of a deal. When you retire, you use those hair products. It's not really that big of a deal. But I mean, I don't know. I've never seen somebody that got caught outright admit like, you got me. I made a mistake and you got me. Has anybody ever done that? No, it's always, I didn't know what I was taking. It was an accident. There's no way this happened. I've yet to find somebody who got caught and basically said, yeah, you know what? I cheated. What am I gonna do? I tried to gain the advantage and I'm wrong. And you never see that. Like, apparently every time it's always an accident. Although this one's a really interesting accident because it's a women's fertility drug. So I don't know how you'd wind up with a women's fertility drug in your system unless you were purposely taking it, because it has testosterone like effects to it, right? But hey, maybe Conor Benn does some kinky stuff on the side we don't know about. So, I mean, that's the only way you can defend it. That's the only way you can defend taking this one on accident, because this one's a tough one to say you took on accident, But I'm sure they'll figure out a way to say it.
If we're talking about obviously the whole situation at the moment and everything, do you think that they should have maybe still put on the event without the main event, or tried to maybe get in someone to fight Chris Eubank Jr., or is that not financially an option in these situations?
I don't think it would have been financially an option, because you have to sell pay-per-views, right? It was a pay-per-view in the UK, I believe. So yeah, you would have just had to cancel it and cut your losses, and that's what you do. I mean, you postpone it till later. I'm sure there's supposed to be a suspension, but knowing how boxing is, I'm sure it'll be a slap on the wrist, and then they'll get right back on it and reschedule the fight. It's
final one on Benn Eubank. I do need to ask you, going forward, how does boxing try and eradicate this? How do we get rid of this out of our sport?
They don't want to. It's better. It's better to have a guy be on the pound for pound list for 2 decades straight, like Manny Pacquiao was. That's better. People fall for that. People love that. So why would you try to eradicate it? Because then you'll never see something like that again. It's better to see guys winning titles in 5 or 6 weight classes, because you otherwise wouldn't see that kind of thing if you kept everybody clean. So it's better. People don't care. Fans don't care. They'd rather see that. They'd rather see guys win world titles in a million weight classes and have a 20-year prime. That's better. The statistics, the numbers tell you that for yourself. Those guys sell the highest amount of pay-per-views. Those guys are the most popular fighters. So it's better. There's no way you're going to eradicate this, because you need this in order for the business to continue. They've dumbed down the fan base into a very dumb fan base that supports this. And then the promoters love the money too much that comes from all the sales that they had that come from fighters doing this kind of thing, because you won't get those amazing records unless you don't eradicate this. So no, I don't think you eradicate this. I don't think that there's even going to be an effort. They'll pretend to. They'll go through a few days of patting themselves on the back by saying the right thing, or maybe a couple of tweets with a virtue signal. That always comes in handy. A few virtue signaling tweets, so that people can pat you on the back and give you the hand clapping emoji. You might get a couple of those, but and then ultimately absolutely nothing will be done. And I think this fight will probably happen later on.
I'm gonna share something with you that might put me in a very negative light. Yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife for saying completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from it, and this has been like a therapy session.